Once again, a very warm welcome to the program. This is the Morning Call. I am Nyashake Mutizwa. Now, when voters in Togo head to the polls this weekend, they will have to choose between keeping a 50-year dynasty or a new leader. Many in the West African nation of 8 million have only known just 2 presidents in their lifetime. Faure Gnassingbé, who is running for a 4th term on Saturday, and his father, Eyadéma Gnassingbé. The opposition is weakened by division, and the incumbent is seen as a shoe-in to win. The 6 challengers lining up against him, including favorite Jean-Pierre Fabre, face a mammoth task to persuade the 3.6 million registered voters to oust Gnassingbé.
At TV, capital of the prefecture of Zio, 40 kilometers northwest of downtown Lomé, supporters of candidate Faure Gnassingbé of the UNIR party and Jean-Pierre Fabre, his main challenger and leader of the National Alliance for Change, are working hard to convince voters to vote for their respective candidates.
We don't even doubt that in Sevier, that Jean-Pierre Fabre will be elected. We don't doubt anything. The last elections are here. Our strategy now is to be more convincing, as some people don't want to leave. This is what pushes us to go from house to house to convince them to come out on February 22nd to vote massively for the ANC. We do this every day, even at night we do it.
Supporters of the government on their part are working hard to convince many voters as possible to vote for the incumbent.
We support President Faure Gnassingbé because we understand that his vision and development plan is of great benefit to young people. So, as young people, we set up a movement that is I Unite, Youth Committed to Unite, Youth Committed to Development and Well-being, to support presidential candidate Faure Gnassingbé. He has already done a lot in the past. He's kept his promises. Thanks to him, we have stability, we have peace in the country.
Friday is the last day for campaigning in Togo.
The election campaign ended last night in a generally calm atmosphere. The only dark side to the picture is that public funding to the parties arrived very late. Some say it is another maneuver by the government to handicap the opposition. And after voting on Saturday, the 3.6 million voters could go to the polls a second time if a candidate is elected in the first round. A hypothesis that the opposition wants to believe in, even though they are running in very dispersed ranks.
We are joined now by Louis-Magloire Keumayou, president of the African Information Club, joining us from Paris, France. A very good morning to you, Mr. Keumayou. A high-stakes election this Saturday in Togo, isn't it?
Il s'agit d'un scrutin assez spécial. C'est le premier
This is rather a special election, the first after the return to the 1992 constitution, which the opposition had been demanding for several years. We have returned to this constitution, particularly with regard to the limitation of term of office. There will be no retroactivity, but at least the elected presidents will only be able to be re-elected once, so that is already a very good thing. The second thing is that this election is taking place in the absence of a personality who was very important in the negotiations that led to the reforms, who brought the demonstrations of 2017 and 2018, during which demands for constitutional reforms made by the opposition and the population were heard. The institutional and electoral reforms have been carried out by the opposition, managed by ECOWAS, which has been a stakeholder and which bore fruit in 2019 through all the reforms that have enabled Togo today to adopt a constitution that allows a return to a 2-round election, the vote of Togolese from outside the country, and the reform of the Constitutional Court. So what do you consider the main issue at stake?
Le véritable enjeu de cette élection reste quand même
The real issue at stake in this election is still the turnout, because beyond the battle that will take place at the ballot boxes between the opponents who have chosen to face Faure Gnassingbé, there is also the party that has chosen not to go to the vote. There are a number of leaders who have chosen to boycott the vote and, as such, will not go to the polls. So it is a very important issue to know to what extent the Togolese feel concerned about this upcoming election, which is nevertheless historic, because since 1995 there have not been any two-round elections in Togo, and there was no term limit as well. So will it just be an election in which the Togolese say, here we are back to something that has been a standard requirement since 1992, since 2002, when there was still constitutional reform, or will it be a referendum to put an end to the 53 years of Gnassingbé rule? That is the main question.
Now, the opposition had said it will make sure that the outgoing president is not elected in the first round. And isn't this task going to be quite difficult, seeing that the opposition is quite divided?
Generally in politics, until the election has taken place, one cannot make an unquestionable prognosis. I think that the case of Togo will be identical. That is, it will be difficult to make a decision before the voters have cast their ballots. However, in view of everything that happens before the elections, that is the C-14 constitution, the fact that Cardinal Podro, Archbishop Emeritus of Lomé, organized the selection of the person who should normally be the sole candidate for the opposition, we can say that there was a failure on the part of the opposition to come together to put forward a single candidate. Since not only do we have more than 3 candidates from the former C-14, but on top of that, we have a number of enmities that have arisen over the years, which make it difficult to envisage a union of the different opposition candidates in a second round of the presidential election. Now, of the 6 candidates facing Faure Gnassingbé, which one do you think will be able to make him tremble?
Well,
if we start from the sentences of the previous elections, the candidate in the best position is Jean-Pierre Fabre. He has a 30% score in the last elections, and that is his best score so far. So I think that logically it should once again be a duel between Jean-Pierre Fabre and Faure Gnassingbé, given that the current leader of the parliamentary opposition, Jules Christ Olympio, is not standing. There's a good chance it will be between Jean-Pierre Fabre and Faure Gnassingbé. That said, the candidates of the dynamic Podro, Agbayome Kojo had recorded less than 1% for the only time he ran for president. He reproached him for having been part of the machinery with Father Gnassingbé Eyadéma. So somewhere it would be a handicap for him. I bet that the final score, the final picture of this election will be made up of Faure Gnassingbé, Jean-Pierre Fabre and Agbayome in no particular order, but it will be these 3 figures.
Well, we are hoping for a free, fair, and a credible election this weekend in Togo.